the art of blending design with technology. I'd like to thank you all for joining me this evening. It's really a pleasure to be with you, and we'll begin our course. This course has been developed by us at Leon Speakers. We are a Michigan-based manufacturer of loudspeakers and concealment technology. We're proud to be partnering with organizations like the ASID that bring the notion of designing and integrating technology solutions to the forefront with designers like yourselves. We want to thank James for helping us make this event happen. Thank you, James. Over the course of the next 30 to 35 minutes, we'll be talking about what it means to integrate technology into your designs, what it takes, and how you can do it. We're going to dive into what we see as a profound step forward in integrating technology into modern decor in very beautiful ways, opening up the opportunity for you to add value to your designs, to provide improved client experiences, and ultimately to grow your business. That's what we're all here for. Normally, when I do this presentation in person, I have a series of props that I pass around the room. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that today, but we will do our best to entertain and teach you as we go forward. So let's begin. First, there's a little bit of boilerplate. As you know, this is a certified course through the AIA worth 1 credit or 1 LU. Credits earned on completion of this course will be reported for members. Certificates of completion for both members and non-members are available upon request. And any questions related to specific materials or methods or services will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation. As a matter of fact, if you do have questions, I believe the chat box will be open. You can ask them, and at the end of the session, I'll be able to answer them for you. More boilerplate required. Hope you don't mind. And this presentation is, of course, copyrighted. So let's begin. Audio and video components have changed tremendously since the first radio broadcast was transmitted in 1906. As the world accepted new communications methods and devices, the home environment would be forever transformed to incorporate larger and more prominent technology. While audio and video technologies have reached new heights in performance, the design world has found it challenging to incorporate these systems into the overall aesthetic of occupied spaces. Against the typical standards of high-end design and architecture, in-home audio and video systems often miss a massive opportunity to introduce deep levels of design and customization. This presentation will introduce you, architects, designers, builders, and remodelers, to custom audio and video solutions that can be seamlessly incorporated into residential and commercial spaces. Technology has become an integral part of the modern home, but as much as homeowners love it, it's often challenging for architects and designers to incorporate it in a design-friendly way. My company, Leon Speakers, which is a high-end custom audio manufacturer, will show you how AV can enhance any space with products that are custom-built to beautifully integrate into each unique environment. This is what we're going to be doing tonight. Upon completion of this course, you, the student, will be able to do these 5 things. You'll understand the evolution of audio and video technologies, a bit of a history lesson that I'm going to give. You'll be able to explain the current state of technology in audio devices, including a very basic understanding of a speaker and how that works. That's a little bit of class time that we'll do together. You'll recognize the importance of collaborating with CEDIA integrators and integrating technology early in the design process. I'm going to really highlight that as we go forward. You'll also consider the aesthetic and performance options available when you specify AV tech. And lastly, through a series of case studies, I'll show you solutions to common challenges of integrating technology into a space. So let's start with the evolution of AV. This section will provide you with a brief history of the evolution of audio and video components. You may know a lot of this. You may learn something as we go. You'll learn about the complexity that we're all experiencing with today's home tech. So let's look at some history. The last 80 or plus years have been a dizzying range of media options and devices that have come and gone. From the first electronic turntable to the first mass-produced RCA television sets, to today where consumers have the ability to stream media right on their phones and their televisions. Consider that the first mass-produced RCA television was introduced in 1946. It had furniture-like aesthetics, It had a design that featured fabrics and hardwood, both of which invited the television into the home. It was a piece of furniture, really. By 1947, more than 15,000 homes had a television. That doesn't seem like much now, but imagine back then it was really quite remarkable. In those early years, televisions were luxurious cornerstones of the living room, decked out with hardwoods and eye-catching fabrics. In 1955, Dieter Rams, an industrial designer and academic, became a champion for design that was less obtrusive, believing in a less but better philosophy of design. His vision resulted in a truly timeless quality of products that were developed under his watchful eye at a German company known as Braun, which we sometimes call Braun. At the same time, Bakelite radios were offered in a variety of forms and finishes in signature colors. All evoking timeless quality and style, these products were really remarkable for their time. At this point, if we were together in a room, I would pass around one of these radios, which we have kept for this exact purpose. So now here we are. In this new millennium, with the rapid rate of technological innovation, the move to mass production and the reduction in size of some technology products, all of which make technology very accessible, but at the same time impossible to design for. Ultimately, compromises have been made. This is Dieter Rams on the right. He believed that good design is as little design as possible. His inspired designs still influence tech companies today. Do you see any similarities, for example, between Apple's original iPod aesthetic and the design of Dieter Rams' transistor radio? Another great example of timeless design shown here are Charles and Ray Eames, a true power couple. They created modern furniture designs that are still popular in mainstream design today. Early media devices like radios and TVs, and note the furniture-like design of that Philco TV on the left, were considered an integral part of a home's decor. And as such, manufacturers paid attention to design as well as functionality. But what makes these pieces stand the test of time? The simplest of designs, real materials, intuitive functionality. To begin to incorporate technology was to add to the audio and sensory experience without adding to the visual complexity. So let's talk about design challenges for today. Now that we've covered some of the history of the tech, you see in this photo simple technology that can seem complicated when first thought of, but actually is very simple when implemented. There's a massive amount of complexity involved in this technology. What was once introduced as one simple plug-and-play TV by one manufacturer now involves several manufacturers and trades to create one unified aesthetic. It's much more difficult to achieve simple design. The introduction of plasma and LCD TVs made displays thinner than ever before, and any semblance of high-quality audio was then off-boarded, leaving room for only small, underpowered speaker components. The thinner the TV gets, the more difficult it is to create great sound out of that television. Not only do speakers often live separate from the display now, but you're also dealing with other components like receivers, amplifiers, cable boxes, smart devices. Additionally, as the technology gets cheaper, TV screens have also exploded in size and have made their way into more spaces in the home. More than half of US households have 3 or more televisions in their home. This is a huge opportunity for both integrators and designers alike to introduce more design-forward technology solutions into that home. Today, discerning homeowners are often demanding that that aesthetic be considered within the context of the home design. And the challenges don't stop with the TV. For decades, people were limited to television broadcasts that could be accessed from local stations via antennas. In the 80s, cable and satellite changed the game, and more recently, with advances in network bandwidth, streaming devices have become more prevalent, pushing content to customers wherever they choose to consume it. The question is, what does this all mean, and why is this important to you? First and foremost, this technology is not going away. In fact, things are as commonplace as doorbells. They're enhanced by smart technology everywhere we look. Statistics show that the smart house market will approach $40 billion in the US alone by 2020, this year, due to the added convenience and productivity and lifestyle enhancements that technology promises. Nearly half of millennials already own devices. And by the way, millennials are now in their mid-30s with strong and increasing buying power in the market. And of those who already at least own one of those products, 70% are planning to buy another one. It's important, more important now than ever, to embrace the field and master the art of integrating the technology seamlessly. You as designers need to be thinking about how to, not if you should. In this complex world of home technology, we want you to be armed with options, ways to seamlessly integrate technology so that it's thoughtful, so that it's purposeful, and especially that it's beautiful. You can give homeowners an experience beyond their expectations and add value beyond what the DIY community could offer or master. Before we jump to some solutions, let's dig into some basic audio and video speaker design. Although speakers themselves are delivering higher quality audio using much smaller devices, sound systems as a whole must be thoughtfully designed to provide the exceptional performance that discerning clients demand. So while having a deep and extensive technical understanding of speaker technology is not really necessary, we think it's important for you to understand that basic functionality, what's important so that you can explain it to your clients and so that you can understand how it works. So this is a very simple, as it says here on the screen, Audio 101. Let's start with the why. How much does sound matter? Consider sound and the role it plays in people's lives. This is critical in understanding why it's as important to integrate into a home as anything else. When people come to TV, people watch more TV than at any other time in history. People are able to access the music or content that they can identify with, that sets the tone for that day, that fits with our mood by a simple touch of a button, on demand. To quote Chris Woodford, it's probably the first thing you experience when you wake up in the morning, when you hear birds chirping or your alarm clock beeping away. Sound fills our days with excitement and with meaning, and people, when they talk to us, when we listen to music, when we hear interesting programs on TV or the radio, sound may also be the last thing that you hear at night when you're listening to your heartbeat and you drift gradually into a soundless world of sleep. Sound is fascinating. So how do we hear sound? We hear sound through speakers, and speakers are not just circles in a ceiling. They're literally everywhere. They're used when a phone rings or when a text message comes into your phone, to alert you to a dangerous situation, to inform you of the day's news, to fill the time on a long drive, to entertain you, connect with you. Countless speakers surround you daily. You probably don't even notice. They fill your world with sound and emotion. And sound affects us psychologically in very powerful ways. As a designer and integrator, you have a direct impact on how your clients experience sound and how it's designed to fit into their lives. You can decide early on whether sound is thoughtfully designed to seamlessly fit into a space or if it's an afterthought. So how does a speaker work? Let's take a look at this together. A basic speaker consists of a coil sandwiched between a magnet and a cone. When current is applied to the coil, it becomes an electromagnet and it responds to the permanent magnet by moving towards it or away from it. This movement shifts air and recreates sound based on the incoming signals. The combination of the magnet, the coil, and the cone is often called a driver. You've probably heard that term before. Typical speaker systems utilize multiple drivers in order to accurately reproduce sound and give listeners a full acoustic experience. A woofer is a driver that produces mid to low frequencies like voices. In contrast, a tweeter is a driver that reproduces only the highest frequencies like triangles or cymbals. Larger drivers move at slower frequency and therefore produce lower sounds. Smaller drivers move at faster frequency and produce higher sounds. A subwoofer, and you've probably heard that term very often, is a woofer used only for the lowest part of the audio spectrum, below 200 hertz. Consumer subwoofer designs are often pretty straightforward and often consist of a large single driver in a big black box. A challenge with subwoofer integration often arises due to the sheer size of that cabinet, but it's an integral part of how sound is perceived, and we're going to talk about solutions coming up, including some of the case studies that you'll see. One last point about speakers. You see there at the bottom of your slide, powered versus passive. Powered or active speakers receive a signal from an internal amplifier. Think of a plug-and-play device like that boombox that you see. Passive speakers, on the other hand, receive signals from an off-board or separate amplifier. Passive speakers are often for higher integration possibilities because this is why they tend to be used in custom homes. There's a lot more that you can do with passive speakers in terms of how your design will go forward. I'm going to show you that. Let's talk about cabinet enclosures now. The drivers of a speaker, remember we talked about the woofer and the tweeters earlier, are mounted into an enclosure or a cabinet. The role of that enclosure is to prevent sound waves emanating from the back of a driver from interfering with those coming out the front. Sound is about the movement of air. The cabinet size and the volume play a massive role in that process. Typically, the larger the driver, the more cabinet space is needed to move more air. And you'll remember earlier I talked about how thin TVs are getting. Well, the thinner the TVs get, the less opportunity there is to move air, which is why we're going to talk a lot about speakers that are going to enhance the audio coming from televisions. The materials used to create speaker cabinets have a big influence on the quality of the sound that the speaker will ultimately create. Ideally, materials should be rigid and dense to avoid creating unwanted resonance. Wood, plastic, and aluminum are often the materials most used in speaker cabinets and baffles, the baffle being the front of that cabinet. Many speakers that are hand-built are constructed out of high-quality materials such as MDF or wood or aluminum, and these materials allow for highly customized end product, and I'll show you examples coming up. So now that you know what a speaker is, here you can see many different speaker shapes and types that are commonly found in everyday integrated home applications. These can be selected from to create a system that will suit the desired experience. It's important to point out the soundbar. The soundbar is in the center. It's something we focus on a lot at our company. It's perhaps the fastest growing category of speakers today. Estimates show that the global soundbar market will reach over 40 million unit sales in 2021. One reason for this enormous growth is that soundbars have proven to be the perfect balance of design and function. They greatly enhance the sound coming from the TV, and yet they can mount discreetly on a tabletop or to the wall or to the television itself. Other options that have come in the form of in-wall and in-ceiling speakers, which allow background music to emanate within a room's structural elements. However, when used with TV-centric systems, they don't necessarily perform as well as soundbars because it's difficult for a listener's ears to place the sound to the person on the TV screen. The term we use in our company is the front sound stage, which means the audio that's coming at you from in front of you, typically from a television. Lastly, another rapidly growing speaker category is the smart speaker category, led by brands like Apple and Google, Amazon, and Sonos. This category is projected to reach over $30 billion in sales by 2024 and incorporates streaming media, home system controls, and voice control. Few brands in this category can be truly focused on audio quality. Instead, they lean more towards the integration of other technologies and making them easier to use. This leaves room for improvement, as ultimately people seek better listening experiences and more design options when using these types of speakers or systems for their music playback. So we talked about drivers, we talked about cabinets, we talked a little bit about amplifiers. Let's focus on that now. Taking a look at the bigger picture of an audio system, there are three basic components: the source, the receiver or amplifier, and the speaker. The source is where the electronic audio signal is generated. This could be a live source, such as a microphone, or an electric musical instrument, or a playback source, such as an iPhone, a record, a CD, or a TV. The signal then moves to the processor or amplifier. The amplifier manipulates the sound and sends it to the speaker. The speaker converts the signal into sound waves so that it can be heard. A simple system could be like the old school boombox that we saw earlier. The source would be the radio antenna or the tape deck in the boombox. The amplifier is built in already, and the signal is then transferred to the built-in speakers. It's all in one piece, plug and play. Another example of a simple system is a wireless speaker system. Consider an iPhone as the source of the audio signal. The transfer of that signal happens over a Wi-Fi network to a wireless speaker, which receives the signal, plays the sound through its own onboard amplifier and speaker. A clear benefit to this type of simple system is that the components can be added without physically running wire to connect them. That's a pretty big deal these days. The speaker still requires an electrical outlet and sufficient bandwidth, network bandwidth. More complex systems are typically designed with an amplifier external to the speaker. This type of system often requires components to be physically connected to one another to transfer that signal, essentially wired. They also tend to deliver a much higher quality sound. When it comes to custom AV systems, discerning clients will demand that as much attention be paid to aesthetics as to performance. This section will emphasize the importance of including key players and stakeholders early in the process of designing and specifying AV systems for residential spaces. Unlike typical AV solutions, which are often off-the-shelf products selected at the end of a design and build process, custom AV solutions require a more thoughtful and deliberate approach. This process should include trained professionals, such as CED integrators, who can identify and resolve potential challenges early in the design process. With the added complexity, architects and designers should approach AV projects with the same regard as they do other systems. For example, when you're designing a house, an architect may determine the location of lighting fixtures, but he or she still needs a specialist to help design and implement that installation. Similarly, to successfully integrate an AV system into an overall design, architects and designers should collaborate with certified professionals to plot and diagram locations of wires and components, and this is especially true when tying an AV system into the home's electrical system. Finally, audio-video systems can seem intimidating in part because they are often installed in completed structures or finished rooms. It's far better to incorporate audio and video in the context of a home design early in the process, whenever possible, of course. Customers may tell their architect they simply want a TV on the wall and a couple of speakers in the ceiling, but modern custom AV systems present unique challenges. Displays are often so large that they take up a considerable amount of wall space. Moreover, systems include many components, most of which require a power source. These components thus may be compatible. In other words, they must all speak the same wireless or wired language to each other. And if the AV system is to be integrated with other smart home systems, such as lighting and HVAC or security, those components must be compatible as well. CEDIA is the leading international trade association for companies and professionals who manufacture, design, and integrate goods and services for the connected home. It includes 3,700 member companies and serves more than 30,000 industry professionals. CEDIA provides access to industry-leading education, certification, research, and consumer awareness. CEDIA professionals can specify, procure, and install systems, and even manage systems beyond installation, much like an IT professional. Design professionals can use the CEDIA website Find a Pro search function to find a certified professional in their region, and the search function allows the user to filter by an area of specialization. The following slides depict a comparison between creating installs of the past or partnering with an integrator who provides a balance of design and technology. Okay, we know what you're used to seeing. Poorly planned speaker installations that neglect proper placement. They lack creativity and style. They're prominently displayed all over the internet. This is at the detriment of the integrators that can offer a value that surpasses old standards. We need to focus on creating the future of AV and design integration and not continue to recreate the past. So examples include TVs that are so thin that no speakers are built in, wires and cables visible in the install, TVs often so big that they're an eyesore. Remember, 85-inch TVs are becoming the norm. And as a matter of fact, we're doing a lot of projects now with 98-inch televisions and video walls. It's kind of like placing an appliance on the wall, like a refrigerator in the middle of a room. They're so large. In-ceiling speakers can litter your ceiling and take the sound away from the source, sometimes creating a suboptimal television experience. Obtrusive speaker designs that resemble a spaceship in your living room. Nobody likes that. Or a coffin. Or they are sometimes large. They are sometimes really fighting the overall aesthetic of the room. So here are a couple of slides where we show before and afters, where we create that same sound experience, but with a blended, sleek design. On your left, something probably from the 80s, probably from my old living room, speakers on the floor, taking up a lot of space, really, really kind of dominating the room from a design perspective. On the right, a very elegant room where the speaker is actually a sound bar placed under the television, custom fit to the width of the television, completely unobtrusive and freeing the floor from any devices. Here's another example. Take the tower speakers off the floor, free up some space, and let the room decor shine through. On the right, what you see are speakers left and right of the display built into that housing, which resides above the fireplace. I'm actually going to show you a few slides of televisions above fireplaces. I have to tell you that I'm not a personal fan of these, but we do see a lot of designers placing televisions above fireplaces. You'll see them as I go forward. Another example. On the top, an example of speakers, again, on the floor, basically taking up valuable floor space. On the bottom, those speakers placed tabletop, freeing up the space on the floor and allowing you, by specifying the finish on the speakers themselves, to match with the furniture that's being used. Finally, here's an example of a product that I'm going to show you coming forward, which is called an edge media frame. On the left, what you see is a typical TV install on a wall where the TV mount is visible, where the cables connecting the TV are visible. On the right, an edge media frame, a product that we've developed which allows you to essentially frame that television if you want to place a speaker below the TV as you see it here. And in doing so, hide the mount, hide all the cables, and actually match the design finish of the edge frame to the furniture in the room. While some homeowners preferred a dedicated space for their home theater, trends in the AV industry have allowed for theater-like systems to be designed into any space in a home. Fortunately, there are many appealing design options for moving the typical home theater from an isolated space, such as a media room or a basement, and integrating it into living areas. The top left image shows integrated vertical speakers that can be discreetly placed so that they don't clutter up the space. Displays can be elegantly hidden behind art or enhanced with custom casings, as in the lower right. We'll talk more about that soon. In some cases, the AV platform can be transformed into the main design element in a room. A manufacturer might create artistic solutions, such as something called sound sculptures, that combine audio with art. With this solution, it's no longer necessary to make a choice between art and functional components. The two are one and the same. See the image in the upper right. That's a sound sculpture. And finally, audio can be transformed into actual sound elements in a space. What you see on the lower right is a piece of art on a wall that is actually a loudspeaker. Okay, this section will offer you, as the architect or designer, an overview of the performance and design options available from custom AV system manufacturers, including options for incorporating art into AV design. Some AV component manufacturers who are paying attention to aesthetics and performance are offering high-performance speakers that can be customized to each client's needs and preferences. These include handcrafted speaker cabinets made with solid woods or MDFs, which can be painted or finished to complement any room's style or decor. Further, the dimensions of many speakers, which can be custom built to any dimension that you need, or to fit specific locations or pieces of furniture in the room. Some companies create completely custom solutions for any environment, indoor or outdoor, so that the hardware works in harmony with the design elements of that space. We'll take a closer look at some of these solutions in a bit with some of the case studies that I'll present today. Unfortunately, many speakers are still designed strictly to fit a price point or a need for sound, with little attention to the aesthetics. But some manufacturers address this by offering custom cabinets for popular off-the-shelf systems. These can be crafted from a variety of hardwoods. In addition to their aesthetic contribution, the wood adds a dimension of richness to the speaker's sound. The discrete placement of AV components can help streamline an AV system and reduce its impact on a room. Mounting brackets can not only ensure the strategic placement of the speakers to enhance the acoustic experience, but can help a system appear more integrated by mounting them to the wall or to the display or to a table or another piece of furniture. These brackets include multiple points of adjustment and the ability to manage and hide wiring. Components can be installed in a wall or a ceiling, creating a surface that's flush with the wall. That's another way to streamline the AV design. Both of those exist in this slide, by the way. Now, one of the downsides of having many separate components in an AV system is that they can make a room look cluttered. Some manufacturers can customize sound bars so that they can integrate seamlessly with the TV display. These soundbars often connect directly above or below the display and match its dimensions perfectly. That's the case in the image here on the right. Additionally, by attaching the audio directly to the video, the overall viewing experience is enhanced and it seems more natural, as if the person on the screen is actually delivering their lines right there in the room. As mentioned earlier, often when in-ceiling speakers are used, the sound seems to come from disparate points of the room, and the audio may seem detached from the on-screen experience. As with custom speaker manufacturers and cabinets, some manufacturers offer cabinets that can accommodate other manufacturers' soundbars to make it look better. These cabinets often include acoustically transparent grills that can accommodate the unique features and contours of any display. There's an example on the lower left slide where a Sonos playbar is actually mounted into a housing, which is then attached to the television and covered with a custom speaker grill. Another approach is to enhance a display, much in the spirit of the integrated media furnishings of the 60s. Some manufacturers often offer custom frames that accommodate either a display or a display plus a soundbar. I'd shown you one of these earlier. This is known as an edge media frame. These displays are crafted from solid hardwoods or paintable MDF, and so they can be designed to match the rest of the room's style and decor. This solution conceals the wiring and the mounting hardware, contributing to an elegant and an uncluttered aesthetic. Additionally, integrating a built-to-width soundbar into this frame is a simple way to add better sound. Here's an example of blended audio, where we've created an audio solution that is as aesthetically pleasing as any other piece of furniture in the room, but is delivering that great audio quality, and that happens to be a Samsung Frame TV. As displays have grown larger, entertainment systems have basically taken over the room. The result is essentially a big black screen mounted to a wall in some of the most design-sensitive rooms in the home. While some may feel the performance benefits and usage of their AV systems outweigh this loss, many clients prefer to use this wall space to express their individual tastes by hanging artwork and decor. And fortunately, there are custom AV designs that can open up opportunities for displaying art and design pieces without sacrificing the performance of the technology. Some manufacturers offer moving art screens or lifts, which is what you see on the left and center, which completely conceal the TV when not in use. The motorized screen solutions are a professionally reproduced artwork that helps to make the TV disappear as it rolls into a custom recessed frame, revealing the TV in the same way that a shade does, goes up and down quietly. In motorized lift solutions, original artwork or sculptures or decorative panels physically slide either vertically or horizontally, concealing and revealing the display and or speakers. So when not in use, what the client will see is art. These solutions can be customized for any display size or any desired style, including recessed and flush-mounted options. Some AV component manufacturers are addressing the problem of limited wall space by offering functional AV components that double as art. I'd mentioned this earlier, this concept of sound sculptures, where you're actually creating a piece of art which is a loudspeaker. We previously saw an audio system solution doubling as a mantle application, while also offering the question of where to put the speakers under a piece of art. Here's some examples of how audio can be blended into the design of a home. Custom finish options. Subtle or bold, classic or modern, simple customization can help you provide a unique solution. Generally, review what's on this slide and take a look at the different ways that we can customize. And I'll just highlight a couple of them very quickly. We can customize, we meaning this manufacturing community, can customize by customizing the speaker cabinet itself, by customizing the grill cloth, which is used over the speaker cabinet, by actually using acoustically transparent materials so that the speaker is actually under, as it is on the lower left, acoustically transparent wallpaper. Or in some cases, finishing the cabinets into furniture, as you see on the lower right, which is part of a case study, which we're going to show you shortly. Okay, we are up to section 5. You should see section 5 on your screen, hopefully. And we're going to talk about case studies. This section will dive into some examples and practical applications that have been done to exemplify what I've discussed so far today. Case study number 1, featured in Veranda magazine. Each room in this luxury Fifth Avenue apartment contains livable yet classically inspired pieces that model American craftsmanship. The challenge here was to integrate a multi-room audio system into the apartment while complementing the interior design with its eclectic but tasteful mix of textures and colors. The audio manufacturer worked very closely with interior designer Thomas O'Brien of Aero Studios to create a series of completely custom speakers that not only create an immersive home theater experience, they also blend harmoniously into the space. For example, you may not even notice it, but among the decor is a custom soundbar, which is built above the television, in this case, in that wall unit on the right. Hiding in plain sight. You see the in-wall speakers. I had shown you these earlier that are shown here, wrapped in matching custom fabric grill, which is acoustically transparent, which means that material placed over the speaker will not affect the audio quality, but it will allow you to hide that speaker in the room. And so you see the example and the close-up on the left. Here's another example, a custom width, ultra-thin custom soundbar, constructed with reclaimed oak and stained a rich espresso tone to match the rest of the room. Here it's built to fit under a piece of furniture. That's the photo you see on the top. Or on the lower area, an in-wall subwoofer, which was painted to match the custom Ralph Lauren wall paint in that room. So by hiding these subwoofers, we are introducing that low frequency sound that's necessary to complete the audio spectrum, but we're doing it in a way that does not affect the aesthetic of the room. Now, case study number 2, Vicente Wolf's New York home. This is a simple and elegant high-end audio solution for the home of famed interior designer Vicente Wolf. His interiors are characterized by clean aesthetics and eclectic art. The goal was to complement this aesthetic by creating a super simple design with high audio quality and a blend of hidden and exposed technologies. The design includes several large televisions, which were left exposed and fitted with custom soundbars. These soundbars provide high quality audio, but they're less obtrusive than standalone speakers, and they certainly free up the floor below the TV. They fit into the clean aesthetic of this home. Custom high-end speakers were introduced and designed for this space using Wolf's paint line to match the highly specialized color palette. For example, this speaker cabinet blends seamlessly into the rest of the kitchen island cabinet, but the sound drivers are left exposed. The dark round shapes provide an interesting and dynamic contrast to the rest of the light-colored cabinet. So those are the speaker drivers that you see that we talked about early in today's presentation. Case study number 3, this project by Premier Group in Indiana won a 2018 CEDIA Award for the Integrated Home of the Year in the Americas. A motorized art lift was designed to cover this television. The homeowner wanted a TV in this specific location because it's the only wall space in direct view from her home office nook, just off the kitchen. So the art lift solves her need for a TV with the ability to disguise it as artwork when it's not being used. That is a remote-controlled art lift, which can be raised and lowered, either exposing or hiding the television. These side mount speakers, the speakers which are left and right of the television, create a polished look to accompany the 85-inch television in a home that does not overlook any details. This television was a completely custom. It was recessed into the fireplace. There's that example again, above fireplaces, which was made with concrete panels that had 2-inch steel frames sitting perfectly symmetrical over the custom-made fireplace. It is a beautiful presentation. This is my favorite case study, and it is quite unique. For those of you who are music fans, you've heard of the Muscle Shoals recording studio, and I'm going to show you some of the work that was done in this studio. A collection of vintage-inspired speakers and media treatments were handcrafted to match the decor in this historic Muscle Shoals sound studio. A little bit of a retro look here. Modern electronics meets classic 1970s style. Black walnut custom media frame wraps around that television, makes the TV look period correct. And then grill fabric that was salvaged from a vintage Fender amplifier covers the loudspeaker. To finish off this final case study, these vintage on-wall speakers feature black walnut to match with the wall paneling in the space, along with detailed custom millwork in vintage radio fabric grill cloth. This Muscle Shoals project truly represents the ultimate in design and particularly in customization. And for those who work with audio and who love music, it's a true connection to music. It is an inspired place. I've not yet been myself, but our team that went down there to work on this project raved about it. So in summary, we look forward to partnering with all of you to help bridge the gap between design and technology. We hope that you leave here today feeling confident with the technology you're expected to integrate into your interior design, that you choose the right partners, integrators, trades, and manufacturers, that you collaborate with those partners early in the process. Can't stress that enough, so critical. That you understand your options. And I find when we do this presentation that we open people's thinking because sometimes they don't realize the options that they do have and the ability to do things from an aesthetic point of view without compromising on the technology. Finally, when you leave here, we hope that you're a true champion of the space that can seamlessly blend design with technology. Well, it's been a pleasure for me to be with all of you this evening. Thank you so much for letting me spend some time with you. And if you've got any questions subsequent to this, you can let James know and James can reach out to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Enjoyable.
Thank you, James.
Beautiful.